Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and X. And for the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. And that's just a sampling. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. For laptops, mobile phones, and tablets, download the Roku app. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Football season is here, and SeatGeek is my go-to for buying tickets. Now, with SeatGeek, every single ticket is backed with their buyer guarantee. We've all had plans change, and when you can't make it to the big game, SeatGeek has you covered. They're the only ticketer that allows you to return your tickets ahead of the event for credit with SeatGeek swaps. So when things come up, I know that my tickets won't go to waste. So what are you waiting for? Download the SeatGeek app to maximize your possibilities and shop live events with confidence.
Okay. Let's try it again. Oh, I gotta bring it.
No, you're not.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Saturday Debate Show, where we debate the new topics and the old topics. And I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, who joins me almost every day on the Mac and Jack Sports Show, and James, who joins us on the Debate Show and is also on Prim and Proper Sports. So, guys, let's get this thing kicked off. I want to start with something Travis Hunter said. He said, is Travis Hunter right thinking what he does on football is harder than Ohtani does in baseball? So, Jack, what do you think about that?
I don't. I never give stuff like that any thought because it's so different. It's just like really not the same at all. It's harder to do actually what Ohtani does. You know, the baseball skills. I mean, hitting the baseball. Even though I don't subscribe to the theory that hitting a baseball is the hardest thing to do in sports. I mean, you could take a very good athlete who's 21 years old, and you can work with him for a full year, and at least he's going to be able to make contact with the best pitcher's ball once in a while, maybe once out of every 25 pitches. But you throw him in the ring with Mike Tyson in his prime, and he's going to get obliterated every moment, you know? He has absolutely no chance of success altogether. Or going against, you know, certain basketball players, no matter how much you work on your game in basketball, you're not going to have a chance logically to compete. But, you know, what he's saying is harder. It's hard in the sense that he puts in more time, I think, with the conditioning. You know, if you're an NFL caliber player, which Travis Hunter is going to be, I can understand that. If you were a baseball player, you can conceivably not do anything for a month, and you could come up at bat, get in the field, and, you know, possibly be able to hold your own and have success short term at least. But football, if you don't do anything for, let's say, a month, and then you take the field, you're going to be out of condition. You know, So I can understand what he's saying, but it's so different. How do you compare?
It is. It is. James, I guess, as Jack said, football is harder with conditioning. But you also got to play the game, right? I mean, the game of football is probably harder than baseball.
Yeah, I would say the game of football in the short term is obvious, like why it's the shortest season of any sport that's out there because of the grind and how violent it is. The body probably couldn't take an 82 game season or 160 plus game season, of football. I mean, we would probably go defunct because all the players wouldn't even be able to last that long. I would think that talking about this question with Travis Hunter saying that type of comment, I'd give credence to him only if he were to say that, or if he had the experience of playing both football and baseball, like a player like Deion Sanders, like Bo Jackson. Then maybe he could say that's harder. His particular, because he's playing the same position as the person he's talking about. I can't really say that it's harder to play, your sport because you're grinding on both sides playing of your one particular sport. It's really like there's apples and oranges that you can't really compare because you've never played baseball to show that you've even say that you're a really decent or a good player. Because I mean, when you look at both Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, they were able to do both sports, but were they likely they were better? I mean, well, Bo Jackson was really good in baseball, but they were better at the other sport they were playing in football. Even you can see it, from their whole career of playing both. And eventually, Deion stopped playing baseball. He kept playing football the rest of his career.
Well, it depends on what, James. If you spoke to Michael Jordan and you told him what was harder for you, basketball or golf, he'd say golf. I interviewed Too Tall Jones. I wrote a feature story on him, and he boxed professionally for a little while. And that was his really first love, his main love, boxing. But he was better in football, and he was telling me boxing was harder than football. Football was very hard. Should misunderstand, but boxing was even harder, for him. And then you take like Bo Jackson, who incredibly, according to Howie Long, football was kind of hobby to him in a way. He played baseball and he'd just show up and play football. It made no sense, to just show up. He could show up the day of the game and succeed. Yeah.
And you brought up Michael Jordan.
Some are skill level sport. You could argue that, like I just said, Mac doesn't consider golf a sport, James. So Mac might disqualify that comment. But golf, from a skill viewpoint, is harder than football. Harder than baseball, just from a skill viewpoint. Because let's face it, I'm not a golfer. I don't care about golf one way or the other. But so many of these great athletes, that's what they do. They're frustrated golfers. And we once threw the debate question out a couple of years ago or so. If Michael Jordan could be as good at golf as, let's say, Tiger Woods or Jack Nicklaus, and he had a choice, and he could make the same money, have the same fame or whatever, which one would he have done out of the two, played basketball or golf? And that's a really interesting question. I mean, he may have opted for golf because he loved it so much. Or imagine always being on the golf course. Basketball was like a distraction. Whenever they gave him some time off from basketball, Phil Jackson would say, okay, take the day off. He'd be on the golf course.
Yeah. But that's also attributed to Michael Jackson, excuse me. Not he, but Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's competitiveness, he was just the extreme competitor. I mean, at the utmost. I mean, to the point where it bothered a lot of his contemporaries. Now, you proved my point also in saying that, like Michael Jordan talking about sports, also baseball. He played baseball, and he wasn't that good at it. I'm pretty sure that was hard for him as well.
He was improving. As he went along. Then they had to strike, the baseball strike. So he wasn't going to cross the picket line as a minor leaguer to play Major League Baseball. so he went back to basketball. It was a convenient time. But had they called him up to the big leagues at some point and he was getting a little better by the time, I think a better example could be John Elway. John Elway, in my opinion, would have been an outstanding major league player. He was in the Yankee minor league system for the summer when he was holding out after the NFL draft because he didn't want to play for the Colts. He was a 300-plus hitter, excellent defensively. You know,
didn't he play at Stanford? He played baseball at Stanford?
Yeah, he played for the Yankees, for their minor league system, and they were going to call him up. Even George Steinbrenner had him penciled in next to Don Mattingly before the year was out to play. And he was an unbelievable athlete, John Elway. He probably would have been an outstanding major league player. And Deion Sanders was a pretty good major league player. People forget, like when they had that documentary, why the Braves had to put him in the lineup, even though they were a little unhappy. He played for the Falcons on the Sunday afternoon game. He said, because I went 8 for 16 against David Cone. David Cone is a little short of being a Hall of Fame pitcher, outstanding pitcher, yet the idea that Deion Sanders would go 8 for 16 against him, I bet no other player had that level of success with David Cone. And he hit 300 one year, Deion Sanders. He hit 300 one year. So, he always said he wondered how he would have done had he dedicated his whole time to baseball. He wouldn't have been as good as he was in football. Football, he was an all-time great. Baseball, he would have had a career, put it that way. Maybe, 12, 13-year career, whatever.
So, a couple things. I mean, I know Deion had a in the park home run, one in the park home run too when he played. Back to Michael Jordan, I mean, he was gambling. And I think that instead of, him getting in trouble, that's why he came back to the NBA.
The NBA was not going to suspend Michael Jordan no matter what. David Stern was the commissioner when they did have an investigation. Ultimately, if he was going to be found guilty of anything, they would have found him guilty when he came back. Those things weren't going away. There's no evidence he bet on the games. I mean, I'm not saying what might not come out later on in the future, but there's no evidence he did anything illegal. He liked to bet on everything, Michael Jordan, basically. But I don't think it's one of those he wanted to escape the NBA. I think they won 3 championships in a row. You kind of get tired of the grind sometimes. And, he wanted to try something new. He always liked baseball. That was his father's favorite sport as well.
Very true. Okay, is Matt Stafford still a top 10 quarterback? What do you think, James?
Yes, I still think so. Even at is he about to turn 38 now? Yeah. I mean, last season was. You can look at Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp as one. I like Puka Nacua, but he's not the prototypical. Like, he don't have the speed. He plays the routes, and he runs his routes precisely, and he plays that game well, very well. But my point is, Matthew Stafford didn't have a Calvin Johnson in his lineup with the Rams, but Matthew Stafford still a quick release, still got one of the most strong arms in the game, and I still think he's a top 10 because he can put the numbers up. He's in a good offense with Sean McVay as well, and they have a good running game, so it allows him to be able to do what he's supposed to do. And that was a pretty close game with in the playoffs against the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they had opportunities. I think Matthew Stafford. This is the reason why they're keeping him in LA. They went to go see what the value was, allow him to go out and see what his value was, and apparently it was still pretty high, where teams had interest and wanted to take him in trade. So they paid him what he's due, and that solidifies him as a top 10 to me, in my opinion.
What do you think, Jack?
Well, I didn't know what the question. You have to look at all the quarterbacks. and upside this or that. I mean, would I take him as one of my top 10 quarterbacks? Probably not with all the young quarterbacks if you're thinking future oriented. But if you're thinking, James, you would have taken Derek Carr as a top 12 quarterback 2 weeks ago, so I don't want to hear it.
It was beyond 2 weeks ago.
But let's just name some quarterbacks, and then we could kind of narrow it. The quarterbacks who obviously we would take ahead of him now, and I think Matthew Stafford's a future Hall of Famer. He gets my vote for the Hall of Fame if I had a vote when he was eligible. There's Mahomes. There's Josh Allen, there's Lamar Jackson, there's Joe Burrow. We all agree we would put them ahead of those four ahead of Matthew Stafford. Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl MVP. He deserves to be ahead of Matthew Stafford right now. Is he better than Matthew Stafford? At this moment, you got to give him an edge. You do. So are you thinking of that over, that you might put Matthew Stafford ahead of Jalen Hurts right now?
But you just named 5. He said top 10.
I named 5, but I could go down. We could go down the list. I mean, there's a good chance he is a top 10. I've always liked Matthew Stafford, but you look at the rest. Does he go ahead of Justin Herbert right now? Does he go ahead of Dak Prescott right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Put him ahead
Does he
of
go
Dak
ahead of
Prescott.
Jaden Daniels right now?
No.
You
I mean, it's a really good question,
yes,
but I mean, but you have to give Jaden Daniels his credit. I'm going just because of the play that he. I mean, and just the team. I mean, you got to give Jaden Daniels some credit for that. That team wasn't all. I mean, they're good, but they're not that good offensively.
But
They're
you
okay.
but you didn't answer. You put Jaden Daniels ahead of him.
I would.
CJ Stroud.
No.
Okay, but now we're going to another area because you have these really good young quarterbacks. So if you had a choice, Matthew Stafford or one of these young quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks I mentioned, like Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, you take them ahead of Matthew Stafford because they're younger. They'll have, more years in the league. But
that's not the question. That's not the question. We're talking about just top 10. If somebody can give you an opportunity to win, because typically a top 10 quarterback can do that. I'm going to say it has to be Matthew Stafford because
I don't disagree. But would you take him as one of your top? If you could get any quarterback you want for your team, the Saints need a quarterback. Okay, you could take any quarterbacks you want, and they're your quarterback going forward from now on. Chances are Matthew Stafford wouldn't quite make the top 10 because of the young quarterbacks you would probably take ahead of him. And even like Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, because they have a future in the league more so. Okay.
But I can't go off of what I would, what the young quarterbacks typically are tied in already. Let's just say if I'm free agency, and I had sweepstakes to try to get Matthew Stafford this year, like the Giants, or a couple of teams. If I'm in that mix, I'm going to go. What I have here that's available to me, I'm definitely taking Matthew Stafford out of everybody that was available.
I would take him ahead of the other quarterbacks available, like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields. He gives you a better chance. So when I agree, Matthew Stafford's a future Hall of Famer who you could say is maybe around, if we have to rate the quarterbacks, off the top of my head, I'd say it's about anywhere 7 or 8 or 9, thereabouts is a top 10 quarterback. But it's all, what have you done for me lately? If Dak Prescott, when he comes back, he gets off to a good start early next year, after 2 games, we could easily maybe put him ahead of Matthew Stafford again. It's what have you done for me lately? If you look at, go down to Jared Goff, for example, I'd put Matthew Stafford ahead of him. But again, it's what have you done for me lately? Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has
definitely
a good
ahead
game
of Brock Purdy.
Everyone's dismissive of Brock Purdy. I don't know why all this hate on Brock Purdy.
There's no hate. I think you look at what people are. I think he's a very good game manager. I think and with elite weapons around him. I think that, I mean, let's put Brock Purdy on the Rams and put the opposite. Put him with San Francisco. Put Matthew Stafford with San Francisco.
They
Who would
would
be better?
both win. They would both win. Basically,
Yeah,
the same.
I think if
You
if Matthew
mentioned a
Stafford
little.
was with,
Wait. You remember Matthew Stafford had the weapons with the Lions, and they didn't win.
he had one good weapon. The Lions were just a bad organization and a bad team. I think they just had hard times. All right. Let's go back. Let's just go back early on in Matthew Stafford's career when he played for Detroit. And the one game I think you remember, this is the guy where he hurt his shoulder, and it was to try to win the game at the end of the game, the fourth quarter. He went back in the game. I think they popped his shoulder or something. I mean, his shoulder was bad, and he threw a touchdown and was in gruesome pain. It was like sort of like the Emmitt Smith shoulder situation. And scored a touchdown and won the game and ran quickly out of the game because he was in horrendous pain.
You don't have to summon Matthew Stafford. If he were 22 years old and we know what he was going to be, and I had the number one pick in the draft, I draft him number one. So I'm sold on Matthew Stafford, but I'm just saying at the current time, is he necessarily a top 10 quarterback? Probably gets inside the top 10 right at the present time. Keep this in mind also. In the playoffs against the Eagles, that last drive of the game, it was there for the Rams to win, and he kind of fizzled out. He didn't do well on the last drive. A couple of poorly thrown balls too. So
but at the same time, you got to look at it from the standpoint. Let's not take the credit away from Philadelphia's defense and what they were able to do against him, and also able to do against Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that could be attributed.
The end of the Ram game, the defense was out of gas with the Eagles. The Eagle defense was really fatigued, and somehow they regrouped. So.
Well, all right. That's enough about Matt Stafford. I think we covered Matt Stafford for as much as we could get out of Matt Stafford. So you mentioned the Philadelphia Eagles, Jack. Is Philadelphia the place to go? Well, let's put it this way. Is Philadelphia the go-to team in the NFL?
The go-to team's the team that offers the players the best money, the best deal. That's the go-to team. I mean, if the money's the same or factors equal, everyone wants to go to a winning environment. Yeah, the Eagles would be a little more appealing than other teams, but money's number one, and number two is where are you going to be living as well. I mean, no disrespect to some other cities, but if a we just talked about Matthew Stafford, and he's re-signing with the Rams, and I could tell you point blank what probably factored into his decision in addition to money, because he probably could have gotten the same money elsewhere. Living in Los Angeles, maybe just the familiarity of sticking with the Rams, but it's living in Los Angeles. Philadelphia is a decent place to live. I mean, especially if a player has roots to the city, East Coast or whatever. But, no disrespect to Green Bay, but if a player, has a choice of playing in New York or LA or Green Bay's better have a good culture with their team, which they do have, and they have a nice city as well. But it's lifestyle. But first and foremost, it's the contract. It's the money that a player is going to be offered. But yeah, Philadelphia, when you look at what they've built there, how can a player not want to go to that particular organization? Because they're Super Bowl champs, and they're going to be in all probability in the mix to win the.
So I see what Richard's saying. Go to the team is where you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. I mean, of course, but I think most teams want to do it with the team that they start, where they're drafted from. You want to be able to say you were part of a legacy of something that started with you, where you began your career. I'm going to say most players that want to go to a team that wins the Super Bowl is usually on their last contract. The majority, I can name a whole bunch of players that didn't do something. We got one right now, Myles Garrett. the Cleveland Cavaliers. He wants to go to a team that wins the championship. The Browns, yes. The Browns, yes, thank you. Yes. Yes.
Hey, I think he played basketball. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. That's correct. We're seeing that a lot in sports where a player late in his career maybe wants to finally go elsewhere to win. And we don't know how meaningful it is. Reggie Miller was not one of my favorite players. It's his whole personality. I didn't care for him that way. But I admired at the end of his career, he had a chance to go to the Miami Heat and win a championship there. They were one of the favorites, and he didn't want to go. He said, I'm not going to go to get it like a cheap ring at the end of my career. It won't mean the same, And then you saw other athletes like Karl Malone and Gary Payton. They went to the Lakers. They didn't win the championship, actually, but they were in prime position to do it when they went there for 1 year at the end of his career. How much would that have meant if Karl Malone had a championship with the Lakers, not being the same player after all the years in Utah? I mean, would it have really meant a lot to him? I wouldn't have been overly impressed with it. Say, oh, it's so heartwarming. Karl Malone finally got a championship. Well, you got it with the wrong team.
Yeah,
I mean,
he got it with Utah. That's where he would have been, to get his ring with Utah. So,
but to answer your question about Philadelphia, are they the prime team right now? I mean, I guess because they're just coming off a Super Bowl win. But I mean, if Saquon Barkley, we wouldn't be talking about Saquon Barkley right now if Giants had paid him. So I don't think he would have just said it. If he had a choice to get the money where he was drafted, or go to the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think he's going out looking anywhere. I think he wants to get paid where he's at. I don't even think we're talking, if they were actually paying him the money that he deserved, we don't have to hear Mara saying, I'm not going to sleep at night because he's possibly going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I also think that, guys like TJ Gardner-Johnson, I mean, he went to the Eagles, he went to Detroit, then went back to the Eagles. I don't know if they're the prime team to win. I mean, I don't know if they're definitely the team to go, the destination to go to. I kind of agree with Jack in regards to potential location, like LeBron. When LeBron was in Cleveland in the early part of his career, no one wanted to come there. No one wants to go to Cleveland. I mean, it's just not the prime city. So it's not like Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh decided to go to Cleveland with him. They all decided to go down to Miami. And so I would think that's a much better destination for them to bring their families to live. They got, it's a little more exciting. And of course, they can go there and try to win under Pat Riley. I just think that with the Eagles, they're in a good situation right now, but it doesn't mean necessarily because people still want to go to San Francisco. People still want to go to LA. You're talking about Matt Stafford. I think it's a lot of other teams and areas that particularly state that it's too much parity to say that one particular team will have a lockdown right now on where players want to come play.
James, it was interesting. I was watching the NBA draft once. I forgot the year, but Orlando was picking one spot after Toronto. And one of the players that was supposed to go earlier, I forgot who it was picked by Toronto. So the guy who thought he'd go earlier was smiling because he was probably thinking, wow, I get to go to Orlando instead of Toronto. I get to spend my winters in Orlando, look, when we're at home, and believe me that comes into play. Look at Kawhi Leonard, guys. He played 1 year for the Raptors. And he's a Toronto Raptor legend now because they won a championship for 1 year. So he's always going to be remembered. But then he went to the LA Clippers, maybe because LA was where he was from. But believe me, I think the climate and the environment, it wasn't just a team thing to go. But I understand the question. The Eagle culture now could be a difference maker. And sometimes when a team has a superstar player, it attracts free agents like the Kansas City Chiefs. You might think, wow, I have a chance to play with Patrick Mahomes. it enters into it. There's a certain magic to that name and a certain magic to the franchise. So I can understand that element with the Eagles.
But you haven't seen it. You haven't seen the marquee players in their prime come there to play with him. Like I said, mentioned LeBron when he was in Cleveland. No marquee players came there. None. I think destination, like you said, matters. And a lot of young, especially younger guys, they want to go where the, like maybe New York, where the city's big. They want to go to LA, where the city's big, the lights are bright. They want to go to those places. They don't want to go to these places that are like Kansas City. You got to draft well and get people early on and have great coaching to have a team have a lot of great success, and have people come there. Don't get me wrong. Who was it? I don't even. Joe Montana was the probably the best free agent to go to Kansas City. I can't think of anybody else that went there. That was meaningful. That was like a great player that just say, okay, I'm going to go to Kansas City.
Well, DeAndre Hopkins.
But he's past his prime. That's what I'm saying. Young guys in their prime. I don't see younger players. It just doesn't happen. Most young players want to go to a prime destination. Yeah, prime winning destination.
I think there's a lot of teams that players would want to go to, right? I think that players would still want to go to Detroit because Detroit still has a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I think they would want to go to Cincinnati with Joe Burrows and that offense that they have there.
I disagree with that too. I'm going to tell you, they can't pay anybody. They can't pay the guys that they got. I mean, we're talking about Joe Burrow. They didn't pay the wide receiver what he's supposed to do last year. Now they're going to let T. Higgins. They're talking that they're going to try to keep all three, but it didn't happen last year. Now they got to pay more money. You got to pay.
The salary cap went up, James. So they should be able to afford it.
Great enough. It's not great enough. I'm just telling you, they allowed Jamar Chase. They could have locked him up last year cheaper. Now you got to pay him even more money now, and you're trying to keep T. Higgins. Joe Burrow's lobbying for him to keep T. Higgins. You're already paying Joe Burrow a crap ton of money, and then Trey Hendrickson wants money too. He wants the money. I mean, he's your best defensive player on the team, and you can't keep all three. So who wants to go into that situation where I was like, okay, if I want to come in here, I'm going to have to take less money. I'm going to have to take a lot less money and go to a not so prime destination to go play as a young player.
I still think that if I'm a player and Cincinnati with Joe Burrows is one of the only teams that went to the Super Bowl there.
I like them. You're right. I like them, but I just don't think that.
I see Mac's viewpoint. For example, a team that has the most cap space is the New England Patriots. And if you're a veteran player, basically in the prime of your career, even if New England's going to offer you the most money, chances are a player's going to take a little less money to go to, let's say, the Eagles as compared to the Patriots.
Yeah.
Because you with the Patriots, you don't know what you're getting into, even though they got Mike Vrabel and they should be getting better as time goes along. It's not an appealing destination at this moment, New England. But during the Tom Brady era, it was would have been an appealing destination.
Agree. Should the Steelers go with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, or someone else?
Well, it's a tired old argument, because they've had an opportunity to make that decision. They've had more than enough time, and they haven't made that decision, and they're waiting on both guys. I mean, the odds are right now they're going to stick with one of the two guys. One of the two guys is going to be gone, and they'll go elsewhere. And we'll see how the dominoes fall into place. Like we mentioned Matthew Stafford a little while ago. Now he's off the table. So, and certain teams, they're kind of like the Raiders, the Jets, or whatever. I don't know, are they interested in Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Cam Ward probably goes in the first few picks, maybe goes one or two. If not, the Giants should probably take him third in all probability. Shador Sanders, we don't know. He might even fall towards the middle of the later part of the first round. It's so unpredictable what's going to be. We don't know. We don't know for sure. I mean, but if he slides by the Jets, they're not going to be all over him. Believe me, they're not. You'll know early enough, and I just don't know here. With Sam Darnold's a fact, there's someone going to sign him. And so did they stick with Russell Fields or, Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? No, in all probability, no, and they shouldn't. They lost their last 5 games with those 2 guys available. Okay, why would they want to come back? What's the best that they're going to do? Have a winning record and get eliminated as a wild card team in the first game of the playoffs? Right. We've seen that play before over and over and over. That's why I said in the middle of last season when Aaron Rodgers was struggling with the Jets, he's going to be a Steeler next year. I believe they're going to try something different, And what do they have to lose, really, And as far as getting a young quarterback, they never get to be in a position, the Steelers, to draft high enough to take a young quarterback. I don't see running it back with Russell Fields and Justin Wilson, how they're going to improve, how they're going to get it done. Justin Fields might be good if he went to the Jets. Maybe he would develop. And I underline the word maybe, but I'm not going to discount that thought completely. Okay, maybe he could develop there. But, you bring him back with the Steelers. If he wasn't good enough to start over Russell Wilson last year, what makes him good enough now? And is Russell Wilson your answer? Apparently not.
All right, James.
Okay. So I really think that Russell Wilson is getting a bad rap here. Like he got a bad rap when he was in Denver. I think he came here, and most people said Justin Fields is supposed to be the starter. He's going to be better than Russell Wilson. He's washed. I don't think he's washed. I think there's a couple of variables here. I mean, you got a malcontent wide receiver that played and not to play. In George Pickens, he played when he was supposed to play, but then sometimes when the ball wasn't coming his way, he let up on blocks and give the opposition a leak to what they were doing. I think Justin Fields played okay when he first played the first few games. He played decent. He's not great. He played decent. I think, to me, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers out there, I think Justin Fields is no different than what Taysom Hill is. He needs to be a utility player. I think he can be utilized best in that regard. I don't think he's a guy that I'm going to look at a franchise and build around him and make him that guy. It may take time for him to be like a Sam Darnold, maybe to find the right coach, the right organization to say, this is our guy, this is what we're going to do with him. We see his limitations, but we can go ahead and nurture his strength and make sure he's in the proper place to win, to succeed. But I just really think Russell Wilson, especially because of Matt Stafford, there's no way I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. He's older than him. He's older than Russell Wilson. And he has baggage. Regardless of what you want to say, Jack, the baggage is there. The evidence has shown all through your whole season with the Jets, and it kind of showed a little bit prior to that with Green Bay. I really think that Aaron Rodgers he may end up with New York, or he may end up retiring. I mean, I don't know.
It's a different environment, a different coach under Mike Tomlin. And a great defense, at Pittsburgh, if everyone's healthy and ready to go. I don't think you could compare Taysom Hill with Justin Fields. There's a difference. Taysom Hill was never going to be a starter for any team at all. He wouldn't even be considered. Keep in mind with Justin Fields, after 3 years of being the bad quarterback, there was a lot of debate in Chicago whether they should go forward with Justin Fields or use the first overall pick on a quarterback, because then they'd have to pay that new quarterback the rookie scale. So that was an advantage too. And there was a lot of debate. So that means Justin Fields wasn't a bust as the bad quarterback. In other words, he was like a student who handed in an incomplete paper. Didn't fail the course. It's incomplete, the course, the grade. We had to see more Justin Fields. And again, with the Steelers, his grade is incomplete. We don't know what he is or what he could be. But once you've had a few years in the league and you haven't established yourself, for every Geno Smith, who all of a sudden comes out of nowhere after years and shows he's an NFL starting caliber quarterback, there are like 25, 30 guys who they are what they are. Like Bill Parcells says, winning Rick, they are what they are. I mean, we're hoping to see something different from them. But with Justin Fields, it's an open-ended book, and it might be that way his whole career. I mean, we don't know.
And that's why I say Russell Wilson would be the guy there, because that's what you're looking at.
He was the guy there. And
no, I'm saying he's going to be the guy again. He's going to be the guy again this year, because
the Pittsburgh Steelers are going nowhere again. They're going to.
What are their options? What are their options outside of that? You're not going to get Shedeur Sanders. He's not going to fall to them. Shedeur is going to go. Shedeur is going to go to the Raiders.
Aaron Rodgers is better than Russell Wilson right now. Oh, of course he is.
No, he didn't prove that. He didn't really prove that. Not even close with that team. And that team had talent.
He passed.
You can argue that the Jets had better talent. You can argue that the Jets had better talent than the Steelers offensively, and they squandered it.
He passed for over 3,000 yards last year. Had like 25.
How many games did he play? How many games did he play versus Russell Wilson? Russell Wilson didn't play the first how many games? He didn't play the first how many games?
Culture changes. If Aaron Rodgers went to the Jets, the Steelers would get Devontae Adams, and you pair him with Pickens, all of a sudden you have two elite wideouts over there.
These dudes are getting more long in the tooth. The more we speak, both those guys are getting even longer in the tooth right now. And you're telling me
Russell Wilson's young?
He's a lot younger than Rodgers. He's a lot younger than Rodgers.
But he's not better, James.
I'm not saying. I think to me, at this point in his career, from what Aaron Rodgers showed me there, most of those yardage you're talking about, those are into the game trying to win yardage. Those are empty calorie yards. Those are empty calorie yards.
Okay. I'll agree with you. You want to say Rodgers has baggage? Let's, for the sake of it, I'll agree with you. Look at the baggage Russell Wilson had with Seattle with Pete Carroll at the end. He had baggage. And look at the baggage he had with Sean Payton at Denver.
That was such a facade in Denver. No, Sean Payton. If Russell Wilson didn't come with any type of baggage there, Sean Payton still would not want him.
And could I tell you something? Rodgers is probably a little more liked by his teammates than Russell Wilson was in the past. Recently, it came out Jet players were actually upset about them moving on from Aaron Rodgers. You don't hear
them. So who beat who to go to the Super Bowl against Green Bay versus Seattle?
You're comparing careers.
No, the quarterback did it. Russell Wilson did it. They came back and won that game for Seattle. If you can look back when they were in the
ancient history, if you compare careers,
you guys are bringing up ancient history about Pete Carroll. So I mean, come on, that's the reason why I had to go there.
About baggage and all. If you want to talk that way, or Rodgers has baggage, Russell Wilson's the baggage. He wasn't close with it. He was supposed to be a prima donna according to his teammates at Seattle. Maybe he was a good teammate at Denver and Pittsburgh. I'm not saying no. I mean, I didn't hear. But there's been issues with him, as well. But sometimes you got to change the culture. If you're not going anywhere with someone in a situation, you got to change things up. Not so much for what's happened in the past. You got to look at the future. And you look at the Steelers team. You don't think they're going anywhere with Russell Wilson next year, do you? Maybe they get into the playoffs, but do you have any type of confidence they're going to advance in the playoffs at all? I have no. I don't think at all.
No.
So you think they would advance with Rodgers there?
They might. And they have a better chance than if they had Russell
This is
Wilson.
the same question that you guys speak about when you look at a player and say, when you look at his career and say he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. I'm not saying, you can say, well, if you got a question about whether or not a guy can get to the Hall of Fame, then he's probably not a Hall of Famer. I liken this unto that, saying that is Rodgers any better to take this team past the first round of the playoffs? Can he do that? So if he's not any better, then why would I take him with that baggage that he has?
You got nothing to lose if Rodgers is the quarterback of the Steelers. You have.
I would prefer to say I have somebody like Matt Stafford coming in, and then I know we have an opportunity to get better. No, that's what I'm saying. So that's why I'm gonna say with Russell Wilson. I'm not gonna take in Aaron Rodgers because of all the stuff that he's got coming with him. Especially this organization, they've been ironclad solid. There's no way I'm bringing somebody in here like that. They already had craziness with. Go ahead.
Russell Wilson also has baggage, James.
It's not the same.
He had his
it
own.
Is not even nowhere near the
he
same.
Had his own. The reason why Sean Payne got rid of him was because he had his own office.
That is not the reason. Yeah. There's no way. That's no way the reason. I get it. He got humbled by it, but that's not the reason. He wanted a guy that was just like similar to Drew Brees, and he drafted him. He wanted a guy like that. He wanted Bo Nix. He knew that with all the money that they were willing to drop, it had nothing to do with him having his own office. I mean, I'm pretty sure Drew Brees
he wanted to change the culture. He was ticked off Sean Payton. He came in there. He said, guys aren't going to have their own offices. What is this? The idea that Russell Wilson to sign with the Broncos was a prima donna. His own office, he's separating from the guys.
Whose fault was that? Who gave this man the opportunity to have their own office? The organization, not Russell Wilson. He just come in and say, I'm taking this. They gave it to him.
He negotiated it.
Why would you do that? I mean, and they had a bad coach. Russell Wilson had a bad offense. I'm not saying he don't have any faults in this situation, but he took what they gave him. There's no way I'm not going to just say, look at Rodgers, man. He had all, you telling me, why is that a bad situation like with Russell Wilson when Aaron Rodgers got a coach fired? He got solid fired, man. He got solid fired. Yes.
Aaron Rodgers didn't get the coach fired.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. The play was bad.
You read these things and you buy into the narratives. I haven't heard anything from the players. Robert Saleh, him supposedly got along very well. And the players now, no one is trashing Rodgers. And now the next thing I'm going to hear, he missed a mini camp at the end of June. That shows you, like 9 weeks before the season, and come on. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is high maintenance in his personality. I'm not going to deny that. But, he's been in the league all these years. He's had a great career. And he didn't get his coaches. I hear this, he got Mike McCarthy fired at Green Bay, which isn't true at all. But you have to ask yourself this. Is the team any better off with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields going forward? Or you better off going to someone else? And if it is someone else, I threw out Aaron Rodgers' name. The question was, it could be any quarterback who's out there. Are you better off giving Sam Darnold big money to come to the Steelers? I say no, not for the type of money he'd command. So I just threw Aaron Rodgers out as a possibility.
Yeah,
okay?
But he's the best. He's the better. I would say if he went to another team, I would say he's the better option of the other free agent quarterbacks that are available. He's the best option of all of them. But and let me say this. Let me not nowhere near am I saying is prime Russell Wilson better than prime Aaron Rodgers. That's not even close to what I'm saying. Aaron Rodgers has a better Hall of Fame career to me than Russell Wilson. But at this juncture right now, with the way from the optics of what I saw with Aaron Rodgers last season and what I saw with Russell Wilson, I'm not about to make that change. He doesn't. The barometer is not lifted up to say I'm going to get these two quarterbacks out of here and bring in Aaron Rodgers. I would definitely stay with Russell Wilson before I brought in Aaron Rodgers at this juncture right now.
But if you did bring in Aaron Rodgers and he didn't have a good year, you move on the following season. It's not like you lost a great deal. Oh, I gave up on Russell Wilson. What a mistake.
But then you're no better than what you were.
You might not be, but there'll be guys of the same caliber of Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers available next season. There'll probably be a couple of free agents, whatever, so you can make certain moves.
Okay, Richard says you're right on Rodgers. I don't know why he's saying that.
He's a Viking fan. So Rodgers.
All right.
But thank you, Rich.
All right. Are the Lakers the favorite to win the NBA championship?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're the favorite, Mac, without question. The Lakers, without a doubt. Yeah, excellent question. 100% your question, Mac, came up. They got LeBron James. They got Luka now. I say they're unstoppable. Great question, Mac. The Lakers are the favorite to win the NBA championship this season. Kudos to you for a great question.
I think you're being sarcastic right now.
I definitely am being sarcastic. What type of question is that, Mac? You know better, Mac. I thought you want to roll with some good questions, and then you have a clunker like that. I mean, can the Lakers win the NBA championship? That's a better question. Not are they the favorites? Can they win? Yeah, they actually can. As crazy as it seems. If they can get by OKC is favored this year, but OKC's never gotten it done before. They're not a powerhouse. You know, with Sean Gilgeous Alexander, Chet Holmgren, maybe they don't get it done in the playoffs. And you have so many of these veteran teams there, you know, that you kind of wonder about. You know, Golden State, who's playing well, you know, recently too, with Jimmy Butler. You kind of wonder whether they can make a run at it. The Lakers definitely have a shot. I mean, LeBron's amazing, the stuff he's doing at his age, night after night after night. Have you ever seen anything like this in sports, period? You know, certainly the NBA at his age to play at the level that he's playing at. Okay, and if everything else gels with the rest of the roster, you know, that if Austin Reeves could, you know, continue to show gentle improvement the way he's doing, yeah, I mean, they do have a shot. They actually can, because you get the feeling with the Celtics in the East, maybe they've lost a little bit. I know they lost to Cleveland yesterday. They blew their lead, but Porzingis and Holiday were out for the Celtics. So maybe we should consider that. Yeah, I don't think they're going to win it, the Lakers. But can they? I'm not prepared to say no. My answer would be yes.
Okay. All right, James, what do you think?
So we're talking about, your question was, can they win the championship or can they get to it?
Are they favored to win the championship? But we changed.
Are they favored to win the championship?
No, they're not favored. They can't be favored. But can they win the championship?
They can. I mean, they've made some strides with their trades. Finney Smith is a really good two-way player. I like the fact that Vanderbilt is healthy now and he could play a really great defense. That's changed the trajectory of where their season has gone a great deal. And also, LeBron James has taken the wide receiver from the quarterback position. I think he's deferred in that regard to Luka Doncic, and it's been paying off. I've been watching a lot of the games. It's paying off drastically for them because they seem to have a really good chemistry with each other in regards to like fast breaks or throwing the ball all the way down the field. LeBron's already there. He knows LeBron has a very high basketball IQ, and so I think a lot of that is what contributes to his longevity and the success of his longevity in basketball right now. And he understands. Yeah.
You notice when they're on the court together, LeBron and Luka. LeBron is the better player of the two right now. Right now, if you are telling me not LeBron's prime, let's say LeBron's a little past his prime, but what he is right now, he's a better player. Luka's just younger, so he's more valuable that he's going to have more years in the league, we think, But LeBron is actually better. I saw a headline the other day where Luka got 28 points, and then you look, he shot 9 for 22, and LeBron shot 12 for 21, and LeBron got the rebounds, the assists. He's a better
He's always been
player
an
than
efficient
Luka.
player. He's always been a very efficient player. But I just really think that everything for them to be the favorite is going to be contributed about them staying injury free and keeping their players in.
Well,
You don't have AD. Of course, I agree with that. But for them, the Lakers, that's been their like Achilles heel. And even with Anthony Davis, particularly, a big man playing against a big man like Nikola Jokic, he really had nothing against him, and they beat him this year with Luka.
Well, that's
and
the
LeBron.
elephant in the room, guys. Mac, James, the Denver Nuggets.
Right,
To beat
exactly.
them, you could beat. This isn't the NCAA tournament where the Lakers could just knock off the Nuggets for one game in advance.
Right.
You got to win 4 out of 7. And if Denver's really playing well and they gel come playoff time, and they kind of not that far away from being at their best now. And if they really are ready to go Denver and they're back to where they were a couple of years ago, which they very well could be, it's going to be hard for the Lakers to beat them 4 out of 7.
And that's my question. Does LeBron have the energy enough to sustain throughout all these games he's been playing and to get into the playoffs and get there and play? I mean, Luka has been great. Like I said, him and LeBron and the players that they acquired has allowed them to play. They play more defense. That's what really they were lacking, is their defense. Their defensive efficiency has gone up, and that's allowed them. You see a lot of the scores are very low, like the low 100s or so, like that. And, that's impressive. To me, that's if that's sustainable throughout the playoffs, then I would say yes. So injury and defense on them is really the biggest thing. So I'm at this time right now, until they can prove that, I'm going to say no, they're not the favorite.
No, they're not the favorite. They can't be the favorites. I mean, logically speaking, OKC's the favorite in the West, and maybe Denver would be second. Or you could maybe a more debatable question: who would be more likely to come out of the West, Golden State or the Lakers? That's I think is a better debate, just comparing the two. Because, like I said, OKC's favorite right now. And I think Denver's second, unless I'm missing a team that you think,
Yeah, I'm about to say OKC's got to come out of the play-in, and I just don't. I don't think even the addition of Jimmy Butler. I mean, it's changed their trajectory a little bit, but I just don't think they're not big enough. They're just not a big enough team. No. Too many teams have bigs. Denver, Dallas, both those teams. Even the Lakers have decent bigs. I mean, but the only fortune they don't have depth at their big.
Let me throw a
particularly not getting that player from Charlotte.
This is going a little off the debate thing, but let me throw a compliment to one of the NBA teams who we never mention at all, the way they've come out of nowhere and improved. The Detroit Pistons this year. JB Bickerstaff, what a job! They were a doormat team last couple of years. They were absolutely horrendous. They got a winning record. Are they playing well? What a job they've done in Detroit. I mean, getting a guy like Malik Beasley, who any team could have had, because he had issues early in his career when he was very young. I mean, look at how he's helped that team, and Hardaway and all the guys they've gotten. They've gotten guys who I won't say have been rejects, but kind of guys a little bit off the scrap heap, but have helped that team win. It's an amazing job for the Pistons, how well they played this year.
It is. Folks, we're at the top of the hour right now. I want to thank you for joining us, Richard, you're there all the time for us, so we appreciate you. And hopefully we get some future shares here. We'll see you tomorrow on the big football show. Jack and James will be joining me. And so we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one, folks.